Well, hello Barnabé. Thank you for hosting us today.
My pleasure.
So I discovered a bit about what you do by reading a few weeks ago an article about you in the Yggdrasil magazine, which said that you were almost 100% autonomous, or at least self-sufficient in food that you produced in addition to energy, that you were really very advanced on these issues of autonomy. And it immediately spoke to me because a few months ago we made a documentary called Autonomy Investigation, in which we went to see eco-villages to see how autonomous they were. And we realized that in fact, they didn't even have food self-sufficiency. In fact, anyway, self-sufficiency, autonomy, was not their goal, and it was much more about cooperation throughout the territory. But then it intrigued me to see how a single person, you, managed to build your autonomy. Why? And so that's what we're going to see today. And so I suggest we start by briefly introducing you.
In Barnabé, I define myself then. I have several definitions. I don't like to be in a mold. I often define myself as stubborn and utopian, which is quite particular. I often say that I'm going to tinker. I'm a Sunday handyman, which allows me to be quite amateurish. And I also say that I do this full time because indeed it takes me more and more time to make videos, because indeed my goal, since now 2013, it's going to be 8 years. I wish I do nothing but that, make videos, and so that's the whole challenge. I love this job. I considered it a job as it consumed all my time and thoughts, even if not financially. To begin, I start by researching and looking for things as any researcher would. Afterwards, I'm going to script, then I'm going to film, I'm going to be an actor, I'm going to edit the film, and then it still needs to be broadcast. So all of that is what's nice.
So, what did you do for a living before embarking on this handyman adventure? Were you already an engineer or a farmer? Did you know how to handle it? I mean, growing food?
The question often comes up, and I usually let the doubt linger, but this time it will be cleared up. Few will watch this video to discover the answer, leaving the suspense. I suspect I'm an engineer, teacher, or a school teacher, but in fact I am neither. So I was rather in my school curriculum, I was rather a bad student. I repeated 3 times. And then I studied biology, rather in a quite distant way. And then in a master's degree in science and technology. And then I did a business management postgraduate diploma, because planting potatoes and growing them in large quantities was nice. But if we don't know how to sell them, I considered it to be pointless. That's why I studied business management, and then I worked a job unrelated to my field. Well, I became a management controller in Africa. And then there was a coup d'etat, and I changed. I decided to renovate houses.
We're going to talk about autonomy, and I want to know, is what I saw in Yggdrasil true? Are you 100% self-sufficient in food already? We're going to talk about that first.
So the question is, am I 100%? So if tomorrow there were no more stores, could I still live? 365 days. If no one comes to steal what's in my cellar, there's no problem. Yes, I am self-sufficient. What I love is freedom. It's really this freedom that we have, and every time something prevents me from being free, it gives me the motivation to free myself from it. Self-sufficiency. Is it necessary to go buy something or not? If we are not obliged to go buy something, we are self-sufficient, but that doesn't prevent us from going to buy something. With this packet of 0.5 grams, I managed to recover almost 100 grams of quinoa. There are hundreds and hundreds of seeds that have all sprouted. There will be more than enough, even too much, and so I will wait until they are at the true leaf stage to transplant them. Yes, I think in one day we can easily cultivate 10, 20, 30 square meters of a cereal. Mom, I don't have a lot of time, so I do an afternoon every now and then, and I squatted the neighbor's meadow and made experimental squares. I made 16 square meters of potatoes, 16 square meters of quinoa, 16 square meters of beans, 16 square meters. We picked up 44 pounds of beans and 132 pounds of potatoes. Corn you saw behind, I don't know, I might have 20 or 30 kilograms of corn. I could do bigger if I had more time. I have the seeds in any case. I produce my seeds. I could cultivate on twice as large an area, or even 3 or 4 times. If I spend a little more time on it, because I don't spend a lot of time on it, I have to spend an afternoon a week on average. Sometimes I spend 2 days on it, but the next month it's been 2 months since I've been there.
Yes, it's cabbage.
Except that it's always, no matter the season.
You organize your autonomy not only at the food level, but also at the energy level. And so, are you self-sufficient in energy?
Well, not quite, but I'm working on it. I find it interesting to measure and observe. In the house, there are many small indicators in case you haven't noticed. Am I consuming instantaneously? Am I consuming cumulatively? I regularly check the water and electricity meters to see where I stand. I don't forbid myself to consume more, but I just tell myself that's it. We consumed almost only rainwater and not much city water, or the opposite on certain posts. And that's something I like, to see where I'm at.
How much rainwater do you store per month and how much do you use?
The tank holds 3,700 liters, so every time it rains enough, it will fill to the brim. And I, on average, consume 2,900 per month, but it will fall into that tank there. 60 cubic meters per year, so 6 cubic meters per month on average. 6 cubic meters of water fall in there, and I consume 2.9.
You have 2 solar panels that cost you what? How much each?
150 euros
Each or in total?
in total. But for 100 euros, I could have gotten a much bigger one, but I bought them small.
So let's say you have the equivalent of 100 euros of solar panels
Yes.
on your roof that power 3 batteries that you've recovered.
Yes.
3 car batteries. And this can power your radio, your water, recharge your bike, recharge your phone via USB. It can...
Yes, no problem. So the advantage of it then, after its small amounts of energy, the radio, it consumes 5 watts, the panel effect 100 watts, 150 watts. So an hour of sun, it's equivalent to 150 hours to contain for storing, but I can store them. Autonomy is not complicated. We strike a match with a piece of wood and comb our hair in front of a stove, and it acts like a hair dryer. It might take 10 more minutes. And that time today, I'm sure we're going faster and faster, and we're taking less and less time. However, I try to reduce our consumption and heating and electricity, and I try to produce as much as possible and store a little bit. Those are my panels. I initially put up 6 and later added 3 more. There's about 2,000 kilowatt peak installed. I almost managed to make 2,500 kilowatt hours per year for 6 months of the year. My bill is equal to 0. That's the overall energy consumption of a household. Half of it is for heating in winter. Another quarter is for hot water. It's still heating, but for hot water. And this, it's for the rest, the lighting, the computers here, that, and running a washing machine without hot water. So in the summer, I can produce all of that without a problem, but in the winter, all of that is missing. It's a hair that I designed without welding, because what do you know about welding, for example?
No.
You haven't used a grinder before, and neither have I.
No.
So it's not a question of starting like that. You can cut. It's a stove that I designed as reproducible as possible, so it's all things that I've recovered from the dump. It's also a gas bottle, which is nice, and it's without welding, because people who use a grinder to cut tubes, let's say 1 in 100 people has already used a grinder in their life. If we had to weld things, only 1 in 10,000 or 100,000 really knows how to weld. So this is forest chips. These are big chips. It costs a liter of diesel fuel to make a cubic meter of 250 kilos of forest chips. So the oil energy ratio for recovered material, it's still pretty good.
But we are still, therefore, on everything is based on oil of...
Huge machines larger than houses grind the material in various industries.
That's it. You have an alternative, just in case, but it's no longer available.
I have a classic stove next to me that works exceptionally well.
Yes, you can put your wood.
Classic. It has a big log, but on the other hand, it smokes a lot. I did smoke test. In terms of efficiency, it is excellent. It heats very well, but we measured a lot of heavy particles. If I had time, it wouldn't bother me because there's a lot of dead wood we could break by hand without needing a saw or anything else. A cubic meter like that, it costs 40 euros.
And how long does that last you for heating?
First year I used it, we only did that. We only used that in the winter. So
So you paid 40 euros for a whole year of heating, a season. What I find interesting about you, your project, is that you're not just thinking about self-sufficiency for yourself so that you can survive the collapse. Share this as widely as possible, particularly via your YouTube channel. Barnabé, why did you want to create this YouTube channel and what is your goal with it?
At first I didn't create it thinking I would become famous. I had built a vertical axis wind turbine on my house, and when I saw that there was no wind and that it wouldn't work, I wanted to remove it, to destroy it. I have a friend of mine who told me, if you want, we can make a video, because your approach is still interesting. To endure numerous trials and errors, only to ultimately realize with clarity that it won't work. And so I thought to myself, maybe there is potential in the video and in the energy that have driven me, because I know very well that we are all enormously dependent on energy. What I want is to show that it's possible and therefore create some kind of dream somewhere. I do it, I'm happy, I show it. And people, they say to themselves, wow, he did it, why wouldn't I do it?
You say that you sell dreams on your channel, but what I find interesting is that you don't just sell dreams, you also sell the moments when you fail. And why do you leave all these moments where you make mistakes, where it doesn't
work out? It's a story. Actually, the channel started like this. I tell the story of what I do. The story continues. I find it interesting to reflect on failure and discuss bouncing back from it to progress forward. This wind turbine only starts at wind speeds of 5 meters per second. A second problem too, we hear the noise from the top segment. It resonates, it creates a kind of resonance that is unbearable. I didn't know at the time anyway how I was going to find an alternator. I couldn't make one, I couldn't buy one, I was really desperate. When I see failure, it just allows me to understand that this was not the right solution. It's not a failure, it's a great technological advancement. I understood it didn't work. It's not a failure, it's a success, an understanding. You
also created an energy association. Otherwise, what is the difference in objective between the YouTube channel and this association?
The YouTube channel scripts stories, and in the scripting there are things that we can't include, technical things that would weigh down the video. It's difficult to make something technical for a wide audience. If someone sees it and wants to reproduce it, there needs to be technique. So I use the blog. There are plans, there are diagrams, you can download files, programs, which are the details of the videos.
And so what is still your relationship to oil? I see that you have solar panels everywhere, that in your tutorials you often order, for example on Cdiscount, so things that come
from China, there you go.
The other end of the world, so with oil. In the end, it seems like your autonomy only works because there is oil, which allows you to buy on these discounts lots of items that you wouldn't be able to build without. So, how do you respond to people who might criticize you in this way?
I, Barnabé, I'm seeking autonomy, but the character, you know, the avatar in the videos is constantly seeking autonomy. And for that, there's quite a bit of technicality. Try using an inexpensive tool to brainstorm ideas and come up with solutions. I'm interested in reproducibility that everyone can achieve, but is it possible in today's world? And since there are cheap engines, cheap electronics, it's poorly made and it pollutes a lot, certainly, this electronics. And it comes from far away and it takes oil. So I'm not resilient from that point of view, but it's for my way today, in the current context, to be resilient. And then how will we do it? I don't know yet. What I want to be is to be resilient day by day with what surrounds us. And our waste disposal sites will be the mines of tomorrow. Today we throw away and bury a lot of things. Unfortunately, we don't bury too much. We sell quite a few things instead. Our trash cans today will be tomorrow's mines, where we'll find quiche and plastic. There, for example, I'm going to take it there. These are batteries from our computers. We throw away millions of them. Everyone who has a laptop throws them inside. These are batteries like this. I buy cases that I could print, but I buy them like this. I can slide them in 4 at a time. I can power a bulb or charge your laptop with this device. I can recharge them with a small solar panel and an adapter, and then I have light. So we're going into the woods. With this kind of bulb, it's a lot of electronics, but it's no less electronics than a phone, which has the bulb and these lithium batteries. There are more and more of them, and there will be more and more for now. The cars in stock, I don't know, maybe 1,000 each. And then when the electric cars, the batteries of electric cars are used, they no longer have autonomy to do more than 100 kilometers, so they put them aside. But there are warehouses full of them, so does that in our trash make me autonomous? Do I still need to buy it? So that I need to buy. But at the same time, is it reliable or not? I couldn't remake it, neither this nor that, nor anything. I couldn't make anything. But it becomes available, even in our trash cans. In that sense, I am autonomous. Aluminum, I will never make aluminum, but there are so many people of aluminum. I think that even if society collapsed tomorrow, there would still be enough aluminum for 1,000 years of use.
We come precisely to this question of collapse. So the collapse, how do we understand it? It's the moment, let's say, in time when the state will no longer be able to meet the basic needs of its population. So precisely in terms of food, energy, and housing, that's why these are always the 3 points we study on autonomy. Did this perspective of collapse push you to seek to create your own food, energy, and housing self-sufficiency?
Initially, I simply desired increased freedom and resilience, but resilience for the pleasure of not depending on something. But it's not at all with the idea of a collapse. This notion of collapse, it's a driver of reflection, it's a driver to move consciences. And that I find that very interesting. If I am trying to be resilient and I associate myself with someone who is a collapsologist, and together we do something that will allow us to move forward in time without worrying. Whether there is oil, whether there is no oil, whether there is a state that helps us or not, well, at some point the state will no longer even matter. His presence won't change anything. And so this new organization could, in theory, it may seem pretentious, but that's not how I mean it. To be a role model, and that's what sometimes I tell myself, if I'm a role model somewhere, it can change. It's easier to follow an example than to convince someone that what they're doing is not right. And that, I think, is a motive that pleases me, because it's a framework that I really like as an influencer, because that's what I'm becoming despite myself. And at the same time, with a lot of effort, it's about influencing people's way of thinking.
Have you ever thought about joining an eco-village to be able to organize autonomy together? And to be able to continue? Actually, your desire for freedom and self-sufficiency?
Well, I'm quite torn because the house is beautiful. I'm doing well here. I've invested a lot. And at the same time, I dream of living in an eco-village or an eco-place. But for social reasons, because the people who integrate into that place want to live in a society not close but closer. I find myself too far away from my neighbors, even if they are just next door. We say hello in the car, it stops there. We don't necessarily have the same ideas about ecology, about autonomy. What I appreciate about this approach is that we don't judge anyone's actions as good or bad. That's not our focus. We're happy to do what we do. And when people want to join us, I say want to join us. And at the same time, we don't ask them to join us because our circle is closed. Well, they want to strive for that, and they will find other circles of their own to do things that are nice.
So, to conclude this interview, what message could you send to all the people who are in town, who are realizing more and more that they are totally dependent on the crossroads at the bottom of their house, and who can't take the step to flee the city and this dependence and become more autonomous and take the first step?
And I think the problem of people of cities, I'm going to start with a strong criticism, but I'll temper it afterwards. It's that they are disconnected from reality because they grow everything far, very far. They don't even necessarily know who does what or when. Thanks to the AMAPs, they have found a connection, but not only that. You shouldn't just go on Friday afternoon to the collection point, pick up your basket, end of story, and say, oh, there's only cabbage. People should take the time, at least one weekend a month, if not more, take their time. visit gardens or market gardeners 9.32 miles away, or join others to assist. Tell the farmer, no, you know, I don't really like those carrots of yours. Won't there be smaller carrots, but sweeter, or squashes that get involved? It's a time to reconnect with nature. That's the first point. The second point is about nutrition. City people, when disconnected, don't know how much energy they consumed to heat themselves the previous day if they have central heating. Even if they wanted to, they wouldn't be able to know. They would have to go see the property manager and make one. We need to put indicators everywhere. We need to ask to have an individual meter and have an idea of what we consumed and how much it cost. I'm asking the question, but it's a trap. If you put a 1 kilowatt heater in your house, how much will it cost you at the end of the day? No one knows. From the moment we don't know, I want to say that we don't care. So the solution for people who would like to be independent, I want to say be aware of what you are doing is the first step. There is no need to go to a garden. Be aware. How many things do you buy? Where does it come from? What's in it? And already there, that's the bulk of the work. Because after that, once we know how much we consume and where the products come from and what we put in them, we have to change.
If we wanted to introduce you to Barnabé Chaillot, it's because his approach as a committed handyman seemed very interesting and rather original to us. Even though he is largely self-sufficient, he still remains dependent on carbon energies that allow him to obtain his wood, his solar panels, his printed circuits, and all his indicators. But his dependence is not really a problem, since he is aware of it and organizes his autonomy within the current system. He does not propose a fixed model, but a model that will adapt over time. In fact, he did not start the path of resilience by directly thinking about collapse, but from a desire for freedom. This freedom that he obtains by knowing precisely what he needs to live, this freedom that he obtains with a quantified vision of autonomy, it is precisely this vision of autonomy that we were looking for in our documentary on eco-villages. Before we realized that living together mattered more to them than the number of potatoes they could grow. These are two different but complementary visions that make us want to go further and make other videos on this subject, especially with resilient but also resistant initiatives. If interested, remember to subscribe. I hope this video has also made you want to take a look at Barnabé Chaillot's channel and to watch or rewatch our documentary, Investigation of Autonomy. Thanks to all our Tipeee supporters. Your contributions allow us to spend more time on Demos Kratos and create more videos. Thanks for everything and see you soon.